Hi, everybody. I'm immigration lawyer John Khosravi. Thank you for joining us for Immigration Talk, episode 19. It's April 5th, 2022, actually. My wonderful associate, Anna Sergeeva, is on the line. Anna, how are you?
I'm okay. It's been better, in terms of weather in Virginia. So I just hate cold. I hate cold. I hate being cold, even though I'm from Belarus and it's most of the time of the year it's cold there. But I can
Well,
just bear it sometimes.
it's
Yeah.
super hot over here in Los Angeles, sunny. We had a little bit of rain last week, but thankfully it's good. If you're just tuning in, I'm immigration lawyer John Khosravi, and it's my associate Anna Sergeeva in Virginia. We have a coast-to-coast practice helping people with immigration law. We're going to talk about U.S. immigration. A lot of updates happening with immigration departments that are really important to know about. But before we start, definitely make sure to like and subscribe wherever you're watching this. We have tons of hundreds of videos in our catalog, as well as new ones that are coming up that just break down the whole immigration process. For example, so if you're interested in a marriage immigration case, download the Ultimate Marriage Green Card Guide at marriageimmigrationlaw.com, A to Z about the process. It'll blow your mind that this information is out there for free, and use that as a strategy when you go and talk with lawyers to see if they know what they're talking about. So having said that, also, we're also going to have sessions next quarter breaking down the EB-1A extraordinary ability green card. These are people that are top athletes, actors, or top business people, top whatever you are. It doesn't have to be these high profile kind of stuff. But if you're one of the best, there's a green card. It's one of the fastest ways to get a green card in the United States. I'm going to do what I call an EB-1A playbook, going over it every week, every Friday. So email me if you want to register, info@jqqlaw.com, and we'll get you information on that to learn more about the EB-1A process. And if you want to talk with Anya, just email her at Anya or Anna, ANNA, at jqqlaw.com. So let's start it off by the big news. Biden administration has changed its enforcement rules. So I'll do an intro of it. During Trump administration, they updated how they're going to enforce immigration laws when it comes to people that don't have status and stuff like that, which is everybody's bad and everyone has to be taken out. Now, obviously, there's millions of people in the United States. So by doing this, they made the backlog in the immigration court system from like 500,000 to 1 million to probably around 2 million right now, or some crazy number like that. So it had the opposite effect. They're trying to kick out more people, but they just inundate the court with so many cases that they can't finish it off. So what the Biden administration wants to do now is to change these priorities and say, listen, if this person isn't a threat to public security, let's not put it on a priority. Let's put the court cases and focus on there. And they want to have the ICE officers, a lot of the lawyers that the government has in court, to rearrange the cases and say, focus on those and give the ability to the judges to decide their docket. What cases they're going to handle, what cases they put aside. So it's a really big deal. So you get the, people who are dangerous off the streets and out of here. But at the same time, people whose cases may be able to work out, but are going to get approved, but they're in this long line. Let's get a hold of them first. Let's get them out of the system. Let's let them start the lives. So it's a very intelligent way to go about things. Even if you're trying to remove people, this should be on everyone should understand and say this is the logical way to go about it. But immigration is political and it gets emotional, so sometimes logic goes out the window. But having said that, another cool thing that's happening is the USCIS COVID extension. There was a gap between the expiration of the extension, the last one, and this announcement. And Anya filled me in. She's like, oh no, the last week. So it gets over the extension. Like, oh my God, it didn't extend it. Horrible. Can you talk about what it was and how good it is that it's back? And hopefully praying that it just becomes a commonplace, regular thing, the policy.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately not. So, and we did a video last week about that before they did this final extension, and we had to remove it from the last episode of Immigration Talk. So, thankfully, USCIS extended the the deadline for responding to agency requests. So, I'll remind you, during COVID times, USCIS provided additional 60 days for those who received requests for evidence, continuations to request of evidence for naturalization cases, intent to deny, intent to revoke, and other notices from USCIS requesting for you to do something about it, basically. So now they're saying that they extended this flexibility until July 25, 2022. Okay, so if you received any of what I just mentioned between March 1st, 2020 and July 25, 2022, you would have additional 60 days to reply to those. And important to note that USA specifically says that they anticipate this may be the final extension of this flexibilities.
Oh, they said that?
So,
Oh, no.
yeah, They said that, yeah. But again, no one knows. Just now, I received a message saying that student loan flexibility already being extended, or they plan to extend it until like September or August. Now it's expiring. It was set to expire May 1st. Just now I saw it on CNN or something like that. You know, so they keep constantly extending these deadlines. So it's not necessarily that they're saying this is the last time, so please be aware. We don't know. We don't know how maybe there is some new variant of COVID-19 comes and everything gets back to how it was before, like a year and a half ago. So we don't know that, but this is a very good thing, and you have to be aware of that. And it releases so much stress of people, knowing that you have this extra time to reply. You know, it's a big deal. And this 60 days is plus to this deadline that is written on, for example, in the request of evidence.
Yeah, read the notice, and you have to read the website, because it's different for certain kind of appeals. For example, they have certain different calculation. In most cases, it's an additional 60 days. And I hope as a policy matter, it becomes commonplace, and immigration lawyers push the government on this, because sometimes they only give you 30 days to respond, and it's not enough. Add to that, the government, USCIS, will mail you something. It'll take you 2 weeks to get your house, and by the time it gets you, you only have 2 weeks. And you may be on vacation, you might be out of the house and not get the mail. All of a sudden, you have no time left to answer these things. So a 30-day thing was really ridiculous, in my opinion. It should really at least be 60, if not 90 days in all cases. But take advantage of it when you can. Now, there's more good news. The USCIS expanded its credit card payment system. So it gives the ability for people to use their credit card, especially, there's so many people that want to go in the immigration process, don't have the full money to pay for it. Ideally, you want to go into debt for this kind of stuff, but it's an option now. You can use your credit card on more locations, essentially all the service centers. There's lock boxes and service centers that handle fees. There's different agencies within the agencies that handle fees, but primarily if you're dealing with USCIS, the service centers and lock boxes. Lock boxes had credit card processing. They expanded it to service centers now too. But beware, Anna, you want to give the warning that we always give to people about credit cards.
If your case is like time sensitive case, and if you have, for example, your status is expiring or something like that, and again, depending on what kind of case you have, right, and you want to get this your case to get receipted, to make sure before your status expires, it's better not to use credit cards, because we see how disastrous it can be, because credit cards not always work. It may not work because of the bank, because the transaction is too big, or it may not work because, for example, we had this one case when they called the client saying that this is like lockbox or something, and they thought it's some kind of fraud, and they declined the transaction. It can be because of that. It can be because in the mailroom it's not always working 100% too.
They might not put the numbers in right. They might not put the codes in right. Or there's so many different places it could problem. So if there is a deadline or something, use a check and make sure to read that check and dates are correct and stuff. That stuff happens all the time and errors on checks too. But for those kind of stuff, definitely checks is better.
It's important to understand. So, for example, if what we see in our practice very often, for example, when you're applying for adjustment of status based on the marriage to a lawful permanent resident, not a U.S. citizen, and that's when it comes into play. For example, someone came here on a tourist visa, they met their future spouse, they got married, now they're applying for adjustment of status. And as many of you know, that usually for tourist visa, CBP officers grant like up to 6 months of stay in the United States. And you need to make sure that for this specific kind of case, that you get your case receipted before your Form I-94 expires. And for example, if you send it with a credit card form, right, and you have like a week before expiration, and it doesn't work, they send this all paperwork to you back, and you know about this only 1 month after you're already out of status, and it's a huge problem. You would need to leave immediately in the United States in order for you not to trigger any unlawful presence bars and so on. And it's really disastrous to people's lives.
Big time. So there's pluses and minuses to all this, but another piece of good news that you brought to my attention, you've been bringing all sorts of goodies. I think it should be called a good news podcast episode or Technology Talk. It's about Social Security Office, which has been the nightmare. Could you talk about what the nightmare was and how the nightmare may be ending soon?
Yeah, they just said they just announced Social Security Administration. They just announced that they will be restoring in-person services, including for people without an appointment after April 7th, 2022. So again, it's a huge thing. If you don't have Social Security, basically you cannot do anything in the United States. For the most part, you cannot even open a bank account. Like
Super restrictive, yeah. Super
yeah,
restrictive.
it's so restrictive. And what we've seen, for example, you may even put on the forms where now they updated the forms, and now you can request for Social Security card directly through USCIS. USCIS is gonna transfer this information to Social Security Administration, and they're gonna issue a green card. But what we've seen, it doesn't work in 100% of cases. Sometimes it just gets lost somewhere, and Social Security Administration didn't issue the Social Security card. So if this is the case, you have to go actually in person to Social Security Administration and apply there. And during COVID times, they just closed, they shut it down, all the offices, and it was not possible to physically get there. And Social Security Administration, they were saying, yes, please, if you want us to issue a Social Security card, send us all your paperwork, like original paperwork, your passport, your visa, like everything.
Green card and work permit, all this kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. And you don't know if it's going to make it to Social Security office, the first thing, and you don't even know that if it's going to make it back to you.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were hesitant just to send their originals there, and they were going just without the Social Security card. And so now it looks like it no longer be a problem. So this is the good news as well.
Yeah, the long nightmare is ending. So we have some other quick notes. One is they're updating some of the mailing addresses for the I-130 petition, the N-400, the I-751. They've added a new mail location called Elgin, Illinois, in that city. If you're filing a case, the important thing for you to know is always go to the website of the petition you're submitting, the primary petition, for example, for citizenship form N-400, and go to the location mailing address if you're not doing it online for mailing it, and check out what the most recent address is for your location. So you don't want to send it the wrong place. Now, USCIS Lockbox has a policy that they'll generally, if you send it to the wrong lockbox, they'll forward it to the right place. But one is, it's going to take longer. Secondly, that may not happen. They might just return the case. So it's better to avoid the issue than just to send it wherever, even though most of the time it'll figure itself out just with delays. You just want to be careful of that. So, Anya, we're nearing the end of the show. We had a couple of topics we wanted to talk about that are a little bit too complex. I was thinking, should we get into it now? One of them, though, is about the Ombudsman's office. Could you talk about who the Ombudsman is briefly and what their recommendation is on these changes for employment-related visas?
Yeah, so Office of the Citizenship and Immigration Services Ombudsman, basically they taking care of, they helping people if your case got stuck or you cannot, for example, reach out to your CIS, if your expedite request got denied, sometimes under certain circumstances, you can ask for help through the Office of USCIS Ombudsman. Basically, it's like a liaison between USCIS and applicants, petitioners. If you have an error, for example, that you are not able to correct through USCIS, you can do it through them too. So it's a big deal. Their office is really helpful. So if you need some help, you go to their website and you see what they can help you with. Because recently, I think they updated specifically saying about requests, not requests to expedite. There was some update in this regard. So basically, going back to what I wanted to say today is that Ombudsman, they just did this report or something like that, as maybe not a lot of but when a petitioner employer, for example, files for work visa, say H-1B, they have to file this form I-129 with USCIS. And when it gets approved, notice of approval notice does not get sent to the worker, to the beneficiary. It just gets sent to the employer, which is petitioner and employer's attorney. And yes, and Ombudsman is saying that, hey, USCIS, you need to send this notices to the worker, because the worker is directly affected by all that. The I-94 form is there and it goes to the employer, you know. So I hope they're going to implement this. Again, it's just like recommendation from them, but it will affect a lot of people, you know.
Yeah.
And
And Ombudsman's office doing good work. They're overwhelmed because of their limited staffing and the amount of people requesting their services. So they're cutting back on helping, like with the expedites, as you mentioned. But this issue with work visas is really sad because generally work-based green cards or visas are employer-based. The United States says the employer connects with the immigration department, they coordinate it. Even though the employee is the main person, the foreign person whose life is being completely changed by coming to the United States, they're an outsider in this. They don't even have access to most of the documents. And it creates a system that gives the ability for employers to abuse the person because they can withhold documents, not tell them what's going on, and just string them along, all sorts of kind of stuff. So it doesn't make any sense to not have them involved in some way or fashion or getting documentation. Now, what behind the scene moves that sometimes work is doing a freedom of information request, a FOIA request for that foreign applicant's file. And then maybe the documents will be in there so they could get a copy that way. So that's a way that we sometimes will need to do it to see what's going on. Is this freedom of information request and see what is given out. It's something the office does regularly. We, at this point, I think for almost every case, we do a FOIA request to the USCIS and maybe the Department of State or some other agencies. But it's just always requesting the file. There was a lawsuit against USCIS about these FOIA requests. And instead of taking 8, 9, 10 months, they're forced to go within what's the statute says 30 days. And we've been getting FOIA requests in like 30, 60 days recently. It's been really fast. I think you have to get more people in that office to work it. So it's good news for being fair. You know, these people have their lives. So I'm glad they made this recommendation publicly. Hopefully it's something that will change.
yeah, and just a quick note, you know, if you're the beneficiary for a work visa, you know, just recently you had this consult, right, John, last week with the lady, and she was arguing with her employer's attorneys, saying that they, yeah, can you elaborate on that? It was very interesting, like case.
Yeah, it's a little bit of different fact pattern, but like essentially this person is getting a green card and her family is overseas. And she has to go through a certain process to be able to bring the family here, but there's a time limitation. There's a 1-year time limitation. And she, you know, she works at one of the most famous companies in the world, and they have one of the most famous immigration firms in the world helping them. And their lawyers are making a mistake saying we can't help the daughters until like your green card is fully approved. But that would delay things so much that the daughters would age out, be too old to be a part of our application. But they're making an error, not reading the policy. So in these kind of cases, you got to take control of your case. Now, for employment-based green card cases, the first step or two the employer does, the perma process and the I-140 for that kind of case. But the adjustment of status phase is something the applicant can do on their own, but they need the paperwork. They need the I-140 approval notice. They may need the employer to sign I-485J. So their involvement's needed, but they also need the basic paperwork too. And so a lot of times you see what's going on by doing these FOIA requests behind the scenes, just to have a backup of everything to keep an eye out. And, you know, it's, again, I can't recommend it enough. If your employer is hiring the lawyer for adjustment of status, that firm essentially is primarily, although both of you could be clients, and there's a conflict of interest and ethics issue that's very complex in immigration law, it really would be wise for you to get individual consultation on your case, if at least a consultation with a couple of attorneys, so they can review the situation, guide you, because those attorneys usually do, those big companies have anywhere like 1,000 clients at one time, whereas we'll have, you know, a fraction of that. So we have the ability to give more individual attention. That's the whole focus of a boutique small immigration firm as compared to behemoths. Now, my friends work there. I have them on my podcast. I have a different show that I have them on. They're good people. They fit they're a special tool for a special thing. When you have a company that needs to do 10,000 applications, we can't do 10,000 applications. Now, maybe 20 years from now, who knows? But right now, our goal is to focus one-on-one kind of stuff, that relationship, or maybe 10 or something like that. But so we need those people. But when you have 10,000 applications, you're just 1 out of 10,000. So you get the attention you need. So it's really good to have your individual lawyer on the adjustment of status phase, look over things, to talk with you, and to potentially do that FOIA request to see what happened in the application process, what was said, so you have that paper trail if you need it.
Yeah, I want to bring this other case too that we encounter. So basically the family, they applied for green card. I mean, not they, but again, their employer applied for their work green card. And the attorneys, they were just in charge of the work petition itself. You know, they did an excellent job. Everything got approved, you know, no problem. Perm process, who went through this know how complicated and lengthy it is. but the attorneys, they didn't, I don't know, they didn't pay attention. It wasn't part of their work to go over the actual adjustment part, because they didn't even tell the people that they cannot adjust in the United States.
Yeah,
so what's the point of having
ridiculous.
the approval of your work green card if you cannot adjust status in the United States? So these are the details, and these things are like really terrifying. And like, I feel so bad for these poor clients, you know,
the
that
hopeful,
they're able to catch it like 2 years after the fact, you know.
Yeah. And the employer paid all this money for no reason, because these people had inadmissibility issues. Not inadmissibility, but for adjustment of status, you have to maintain valid status until the time you file Form I-485. In this case, without going too much detail, they had something that kept them here legally, but not enough for adjustment of status. And so they went through the whole I-140, whole perm, all that work green card process, and they got to adjustment. And the firm's like, we only hyper focus on these. We do 1 million of these a year. We don't do anything else. And anything that's a little bit different, we don't know. So as soon as it came to me within the first email, I'm like, well, that's not happening. And so it's like, well, they should just told you and stop the process. I don't think they intentionally did it to take money. I just think they're so hyper focused on the one thing that they do that they lost track of things. So it really is important to have your individual guidance. If you need to reach out, email us. I'm info@jqqlaw.com. Anya's on Anna@jqqlaw.com, ANA@jqqlaw.com. Hopefully it'll be our emails on the bottom. And just check it out. You know, like, subscribe if you're watching this. Email us if you want to schedule a consultation. Briefly write your immigration issue so we know it's to have a case we handle and we can follow up with you. But we're here to provide that individual attention. People who care about your case, want to know who you are, want to know who your family are, that kind of stuff. Not just another number that's going in that volume rotation. And that's the kind of service we want to provide. And that's what differentiates us from other firms. So, Anya, thanks so much again for coming on. Can't wait to talk with you again next week about this fun immigration stuff.
Thank you, John. Yes, it's so much fun. It's so challenging. It's so interesting. You know, I really enjoy doing this job so much, and I'm really excited that I chose this field. You know, for a lot of immigration attorneys, I know the field chose them, but I went here like specifically, you know, not vice versa. So yeah, it's been a great time being here and working with you.
Wonderful. I appreciate it. It's wonderful having you, and I can't wait to the bigger things that we got planned, and people are going to see in our videos the new stuff that's coming up from the JK Law Firm. Much appreciated. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching this educational program. To get the latest videos, click the subscribe button and the notification bell icon. Also, help us help the immigrant community by liking this video and sharing it with your family and friends. You can also find us on other social media sites like Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, and Twitter, where you find the latest updates on immigration news, policy changes, and tips. Be safe and God bless. See you soon.